All right, we're going live. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Welcome everybody to the live discussion panel for Ballet Under the Virtual Stars. My name is Alexandra Papazian and I'm the Education and Community Engagement Manager for Ballet Arizona. And we're so glad that you could join us this year, however virtually, for our Ballet Under the Stars performance. It's something we look forward to every single year, and we were so glad that we had this opportunity to present it to you guys. Ballet Under the Virtual Stars is presented by the Diane and Bruce Halley Foundation this year with additional sponsorship by the City of Goodyear, Estrella by Newland, National Endowment for the Arts, APS, Shamrock Foods, US Bank, and Grand Canyon University. Thank you so much to our sponsors for helping us get this program out to the community and into the world. So to start with, I'd love to introduce you to our panelists. They are part of our Ballet Arizona dancers, professional dancers. I have Katherine Loxtercamp, Tiffany Chatfield, and Ricardo Santos with me. Katherine, to start, could you tell us your name, where you are from originally, and when you came to Ballet Arizona?
Hi everyone, my name's Katherine. I have been at Ballet Arizona for 5 seasons now. This is my 5th season, and I grew up in Bemidji, Minnesota.
Thank you, Katherine. Tiffany, can you tell us where you're from and when you came to Ballet Arizona?
Hi, my name is Tiffany Chatfield. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and I came to Ballet Arizona after graduating from the Herod Conservatory. And this is my 2nd season with the company, but 3rd year at Ballet Arizona.
Thank you, Tiffany. And Ricardo, where are you from and how long ago did you join Ballet Arizona?
Hi, my name is Ricardo Santos. I'm originally from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I've been with Ballet Arizona. This is my 5th season, I believe.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We are so grateful and lucky to have you as part of our panel. And I'm sure there are lots of people who are tuning in right now who have questions to ask you and learn more about who you are as people and as dancers. To just kick things off while people are commenting and chatting and leaving their questions in the live chat. What was it like to prepare for Ballet Under the Stars this year? So normally we have our program at the parks all around the valley in the middle of September, early September, but this year it's been slightly different. What was it like to sort of prepare for this program with the COVID pandemic?
Well, it was the first production that we actually did after coming back from our break over the summer. So it was really interesting to try to figure out how it would work while we were dancing. The show that you saw, we weren't wearing masks, but even at that time we were rehearsing in masks and we were socially distancing. We were all getting tested before we came back to the studios. So that was still in the period of time where we were kind of figuring out how to work and how to work safely. So there was a lot of trial and a lot of unknowns, I think, for everyone at that time, but it was a good way for us to figure out how to perform for you guys for Ballet Under the Stars and for our production that we're doing later in February, and just kind of get a good program down so that we could perform safely for you guys.
Thank you, Katherine. And so people got to see the Ballet Under the Virtual Stars performance, which was a broadcast of our Inspire program from the fall. They got to see an excerpt from a folktale. They also got to see a new work by Eve Anderson. They got to see a pas de deux from Nyon's choreography repertoire, and they also got to see some Alejandro Cerruto. Can you tell the people watching what dances you were a part of in this production? Ricardo, will you go first?
Yeah, so I was pas de sept, Bonneville, and then also on Eve's piece. And it was a difficult program actually coming back from so many months off. Like pas de sept is very like a lot of Petit Allegro. It was hard, like it was also fun to be able to be back in the studio and dancing and performing. It was really inspiring after going through all of we already gone through, to be able to focus on something positive and that we love to do, and that we weren't certain we were going to be able to do it or not. So it was really nice to get to do that program.
Thank you, Ricardo. Tiffany, what parts of the program were you in?
So I was in the Eves piece, and I was also in Podicept, but not in the recording.
Thank you, Tiffany. And Katherine, what part of the program were you in?
I danced in Eve's piece, the Goldberg Variations, which I thought was just a really interesting thing that he did, especially because it was during a pandemic. It's not something I think we would have done if the pandemic had not occurred. It was very specifically choreographed. Eve was very conscious of having not too many dancers on stage at once, and having no or basically no partnering. Unless those two dancers lived together or had already been in contact with each other. So there were a lot of mechanics, I think, for him to figure out, and it was able to kind of birth this really interesting piece for Inspire. So I was happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Katherine. It's great to see all of you dancing and continuing to produce art, especially during this time. I just want to take a moment to remind everyone watching, if you have questions or if you have comments that you would like to say to the dancers, or you'd like us to talk about something in particular, please take a second and locate the live chat. You can type comments and questions in there, and we will make sure to read them and ask them as they come in. So I am checking that. Please go ahead and type those in whenever you have something to ask. I did want to get started. We had a couple of questions here already popped up. Willow and Meadow from Goodyear, Arizona would like to know, what age did you guys start dancing?
Hi, Willow and Meadow. Thank you so much for watching. I started dancing when I was about 4 years old, up at a small studio in my hometown, Bemidji.
I started dancing when I was about like 2.5, but like obviously when you're that age, it's not really dance so much as it's just like something fun to do. So.
I started dancing around 7, 8 years old in Brazil.
And so for each of you, what did your growth process look like? So you started at fairly young ages. What did your path for training look like? And then if I could just ask everyone to just scoot a little closer to their computers. I'm seeing some comments that we are a little quiet, so thank you. We'll settle in nice and close. So again, the question was, what did your training path look like starting at that young age?
Well, like I said, I started dancing at about 4 years old in Bemidji, Minnesota, which is a very small town. So there weren't a lot of options for ballet, like thankfully we have here in Phoenix. But I was at a very small studio for a couple years, and then someone else came to our town and started a studio. So I moved there. And eventually I found 2 dancers that had moved somewhat near me who trained at Houston Ballet. Daniel and Julie Blake were the 2 people who really coached me and taught me more about ballet and the ballet world outside of my little small town. And they ended up connecting me to Maryland Youth Ballet. And when I was 16, I moved to Washington, D.C. to train out there. And from there, I found a connection to Ballet Arizona. So I then spent 2 years in the studio company after I graduated from high school, and then progressed into the company.
So I started when I was 2, but obviously, you take ballet classes just as like after school things. But as I started getting older into like 7, 8, 9, it was just more of like, I had so many friends at dance, and I just really loved all styles. So I was really caught between if I wanted to go to like, I don't know, Broadway and musical theater kind of stuff. But then I went to a summer intensive for ballet because my friend said that like it was so good and she had so much fun. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. And then like I just started getting more and more into ballet. And then I went to the Herod Conservatory and I was just like, I need this. And so I spent my high school there. And then after graduating, it was kind of like, where do I want to audition? Where do I want to go? And Mimi Tompkins actually had gone to Herod. And so we still had connections with her. So I came to audition here and I got in, and then, from there.
So at first, I started doing ballet once a week, and I was always very anxious and excited to that day to come for me to go to ballet. So I spent a year like that, and then I'm like, Mom, I want more classes. I want to take more ballet classes. And then I went to another studio. I still stayed on a studio once a week, and then I went to another studio where I was doing ballet class twice a week. So I was doing 3 times a week in Brazil, and that was not enough. And I got into another school, a third school, and so I was going from there from Monday through Friday, 1 class a day. Then I had the other 3 classes later on the day. And it wasn't enough. So I moved to another school, probably when I was 12. And I was there, from 2 in the afternoon until 8 p.m., sometimes 10 p.m., taking classes until I was probably 16. And then from 16, I was in the same studio, but we changed the hours. So I was there from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. So, and that was my trajectory. And then I did some competitions, a lot of competitions actually, and, got to get a contract for a company when I was in New York. So, yeah.
Thank you all for sharing that story of your journeys with us. I know it's always unique and different for each dancer as to how they, come to this point in their careers and how they find a position with a company. It looks like we have a few more questions here. Kimberly Bannock says, wonderful performance. Thank you. Salvador Brett says, that was amazing. You guys are the best. Thank you, Salvador. Barbara Buchfer says, I'm very much looking forward to the performance. I have missed being able to view in-person cultural events. Please tell us how the pandemic has affected you. So for each of you, we've been doing several different things to try to keep our company, running together, producing art. But what has been your experience, either personally or professionally, dealing with the pandemic this year?
Well, I believe it was actually mid-March that we were at the studio just for rehearsals, and it was kind of when everything was starting to happen more rapidly, and we had a company meeting to discuss what we wanted to do, and we ended up going home that day just for, I believe it was a week or maybe 2 weeks with the plan to come back, and that turned into pretty much until we started again in the fall. So we were really taking it week by week, not really knowing what was coming, if we would still have jobs, if things were going to get worse. So it was a pretty scary time, I think, for everyone. But one of the things that was really amazing was the company started doing company classes via Zoom pretty quickly. So we had our normal teachers, our normal rehearsal directors, giving us daily classes in just our kitchens or our living rooms or outside or wherever we could find a bar. We also had a wonderful donor who purchased individual Marley, which is the special flooring that dancers dance on, Marley flooring for our homes. So that was a huge help too. So we had a lot of support, which was amazing, and I think we're all very thankful for, that helped us keep dancing through the summer. And eventually we were able to come back into the studios safely with masks and social distancing. So it was really, really difficult, but it was also really inspiring to just have the support and especially like the community of the dancers in the company, because I know personally I wasn't able to travel. I usually go home to see my family in Minnesota over the summer, at least for a little while, and I wasn't able to do that this year. So I was missing them a lot, and I wasn't living with anyone. So it was really difficult, but I really had you know, my ballet community there. And I think we all felt that just on Zoom every day, even in class. So it was difficult, but we all got through it together. And I'm glad we can be back in the studios now.
And I guess to add to that, when we stopped so abruptly, it kind of made me realize how much I loved dancing and like how much I loved being able to move in like a proper space, because I loved that we were able to take classes on Zoom, but like I really missed that like feeling of being free, because that's part of the whole draw of being a ballet dancer. So when we first got back into the studios after the summer, it was like a breath of fresh air almost, even though you're wearing a mask. It was amazing, yeah. So just like reprioritizing like how much dance means to me, and I'm sure how much dance means to our company and our community.
I'll add to that too. Yeah, of course, it has been difficult, I think, for everyone. But a positive note from that is that I got to reconnect with a lot of friends that I haven't connected in a very long time through Zoom, through House Party, through all those little apps that they made. And I appreciate that, because I think it was in normal times, you just start in a rush. You don't really get to connect with your friends that live in New York and in Chicago. And so I appreciate that time to actually reconnect with those really important friends of mine, and, you know, other friends, of course, around here too. But on a positive note, for me, that was something that was nice, something that I looked for, you know, like every Wednesday or every Thursday, you know, like to get to reconnect with friends that I haven't seen in a long time. So, but yeah, it was very difficult. And going back to the company was really, really nice to be able to, you know, the uncertainty that all the dancers had, and not just us, but, you know, the companies too. We talked with other friends and they're like, our season got canceled, and you're like freaking out. You're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Is our season gonna be canceled too? And, you know, to be able to come back to work is something that I think we are all at Ballet Arizona very thankful for, because not every company is fortunate enough to be able to be doing what we're doing. So I think we are all very thankful to have the opportunity during this crazy time to be doing what we love.
Oh, I wanted to expand really quick on something that Tiffany said. Like she said, one of the things I really realized right when we went into quarantine and when we started taking class kind of more just staying in shape on our own, is that I've always taken ballet as a very personal endeavor, I suppose. So just really focused on what I'm doing, how I'm working. And during quarantine, I really came to the realization that it's a community event. Like a main part of it is interacting with people in class and playing off of them and dancing with them. You know, even just being in the presence of someone else is something I really took for granted during, you know, all of the times that I had it. So it's very nice to be back in a studio with, you know, people who are just inspiring and getting to dance with other people now, because it was something that I really missed during quarantine and I didn't expect to.
Thank you all so much for sharing such, you know, personal thoughts about how this time has been. And Ricardo, you're absolutely right. You know, we are so lucky here at Ballet Arizona to be doing what we're doing, to have the leadership that we have, to have the support that we have from all of our donors, our patrons, our community. We're just so incredibly lucky. So thank you to every single one of you watching, every single one of you who has been part of the Ballet Arizona family. We would not be here without you, and we don't exist without you. So we're grateful to be here, and we're grateful for you. Let me check and see. Jim Smith says, very nice Ballet Under the Stars program and performances. Thank you. Skylar Kovac has a question. How long does it take to set the piece by Eve? So I think she's referring to Goldberg Variations. How long did it take to set that piece and and actually to work on that piece, because it was brand new choreography?
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we came back towards the end of August and we started working on it right away. And then I believe we performed it in October. So it was about maybe just under 2 months that we were working on it. It was a very interesting piece to put together, like I said, because it was very separated. So at that point in time, we were still very cautious, and we're still very cautious. But with more knowledge now, we can be in the studio, I think, with a little less apprehension. But at that point in time, it was very, keeping most people out of the studio except for the people rehearsing. And Ebe, I think I got the sense at least that he was as excited as the rest of us to really be back in the studio. And I think that's maybe the fastest we've ever set a piece. And it was just very exciting. Everyone was very eager. So I think it came together really, really well. And I'm proud of what we've done with it. And I hope that Ebe is too. But it didn't take, I guess that's about a normal time that it would take to set, depending on the length and the difficulty of a piece. But that one was set fairly quickly. And it took maybe just under 2 months until we performed it.
And I think Ebe mentioned too, back when we were closer to that piece's choreography, I know he mentioned that it sort of just came out of him, like he had a lot of creative inspiration in setting that piece. And so it was very exciting to be able to put that together and to see how it came together so quick. Barbara Buchfer says, did you always know that you wanted to make ballet your career?
So like I said previously, I really liked musical theater when I was younger, and I really like singing and acting. But for some reason, like my summer, when I went to the school that I ended up going and graduating from, like something with the teachers and the way they taught, I guess, just had me completely hooked on like making every step and every day just like better and better. And like, I guess it wasn't so much of just like, I don't know, it was all the little things about ballet that just kind of accumulated, and it was like, I have to do this.
I never really had a moment where I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. But like Tiffany said, there's a lot of little things I think that add up to it. And the most important thing for me was that I just didn't want to stop. I started dancing when I was younger, and I was always taking class all through, elementary school, middle school, high school, and I had other hobbies on top of that. I played tennis, I played oboe, I played violin, I was in speech and debate. So there were a lot of other, hobbies that I was involved in and had fun with, and ballet was always kind of a part of that, but it always had a little bit of an extra passion for it, and to the point where I was willing to forego other things to continue dancing and pursuing my art and working with my instructors, and that just progressed through going to summer intensives, and it progressed. And I think the pivotal moment was graduating from high school. You kind of have a sense of, all right, should I go to college now, or do I pursue? That was really a dividing point. And I actually ended up applying to colleges and also auditioning for ballet companies and seeing what my options were. And I decided that I didn't want to stop dancing, so I just kept dancing. And I was very fortunate to have the financial and emotional support of my parents, which I think, most dancers have someone in their life who has really supported them through their endeavors. And we're very thankful for that, all of us. But I think that was mostly it. I just didn't feel like stopping, and I haven't had any need to or desire to until this point, and I continue to dance until such a time comes.
So hearing them talking about it's so funny, because ballet has always been my passion since I was very young. So when I got into the age of 14, after giving so much of myself of it, I was like, I want to live off this. The question was, can I? Will I be able to find a job? am I good enough to find a job? But in my mind, that's what I wanted it to do. That's what I want to live off. That's what I'm going to make a career out of it. It was just questionable of, will I be able to, will I find a job? But I knew that that's what I wanted it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Let's see. Oops, I jumped down a little bit. Artist Phoenix says, from watching performances by the University of Oklahoma Ballet School to Ballet Arizona, what a wonderful journey it has been. Thank you for this chat. Thank you all for being a part of this chat. Susan says, Paco Pepe Pluto was such a quirky and fun dance to watch. How did you find that one? So correct me if I'm wrong, Ricardo, you weren't part of Paco Pepe Pluto, right? In the production? Okay. So Susan, the quick answer to that is our artistic director, Eve Anderson, is in charge of finding, sourcing, cultivating the pieces that we perform in our season. And Paco Pepe Pluto is a work by Alejandro Cerruto, and we have done a few works by him over the last few years. He's a choreographer that Eve really likes. And I'm not sure how he found that piece in particular, but I know he's been included in our contemporary and mixed rep productions for several years. So Ebe Anderson does a lot of watching different ballets, watching different choreographers, finding the most up and coming talent and new art to bring to our stage, and he is responsible for that choice. And I'm glad you liked it.
I have to say, just as an observer of Paco Pepe Pluto, over the years, one of the things that's been interesting to me is to see multiple different people do it, and to see people, the same dancers do it over many years, because I think it's a very personal piece. And if you can find other recordings or have the opportunity to see someone else do it, you always see different things with that piece. And it's very interesting to see different artists take on the same choreography, especially with that piece, I think.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Even if we've done a piece, you're probably going to see a different cast of it. And even if you see the same cast, our dancers and artists are always growing. So it's just every single time you see it, there's something brand new to see. That's the beauty of dance and live performance. Nancy Weschler says, great selection of eloquent dancers. Yes, they're amazing. Thank you, all of you, for being on our panel. Susan also says, there was one dance in the show that had a bunch of lifts, but the two dancers made it look so effortless. How long does it normally take to develop that much trust in a new partner? So yeah, I guess the question is how much time, how do you build that trust when you're partnering with somebody?
I think partnering with someone is a very interesting relationship, because it's not just your relationship, in the studio and on the stage, it's your relationship outside of the stage, how you work together, how you, work on different things, and your willingness to work with each other is always going to be different, temperaments or whatever else is going on in your life. So it can take a while, I think, to feel comfortable with a partner just as a person, but you can really see when two people meld together and perform really well together. And I believe that they'd be referring to the very beginning of Eve's The Goldberg Variations. And the two dancers you saw were Jillian and Nyan, who have been married for many years and are expecting their first child. And so they have a great relationship outside of ballet. And I think that is very obvious on stage, especially to see them dancing together. They know each other. They know how they move. They've danced together for many, many years. And so it's very natural, and you can see that in their dancing.
Yes, I believe it's either Jill and I, or maybe Rochelle and Ethan on the Pas de Deux of Nyan's ballet too. For me, I think it really depends of maturity and of experience. And so the more experience you have, the more comfortable you'll be, faster, of course. But I really think it depends of the trust and, as Catherine said, of the willingness of working together. And yeah, but I don't think it's for me personally something that I enjoy doing it. So it comes easy to me to partner anyone. I'll partner, anybody that is willing to be partner and is willing to work together and to melt into one body, because I think the end goal, that's the end goal, so yeah.
Thank you for sharing those insights. It's always very interesting to hear, from the people that get to do it, because that's not something that, your average person gets to experience or gets to try. Artist Phoenix says, dancers have to have that special gift to make ballet a career. They absolutely do. And a lot of luck, and support, and just being in the right place at the right time. Nancy says, how unusual was it to incorporate a dancer who is pregnant, and how do each of the dancers envision include normal life changes such as pregnancy? Okay, so this is a two-part question. I'll take the first part. It's pretty unusual to incorporate a dancer that is pregnant into a dance piece. Usually dancing is very difficult, and the choreography for lots of classical and contemporary ballets can't always be changed unless you're choreographing something brand new, where you can sort of work around some of the limitations that a pregnancy might cause. So in this particular circumstance, Eve was able to choreograph something that would be safe, that would be doable, that would be beautiful for both Nyan and Jill, which was amazing. And it was a great opportunity to explore something like that. But, as far as doing like a full length Swan Lake ballet or a classical ballet with a baby in tow, that would be extremely difficult and unsafe. So you would only want to do it if the circumstances were right. And then I think the second part of the question is, how do each of you three envision how life will affect your career? So we actually have two dancer couples who are going through major life stages right now. We have Nyan and Jill, who are expecting a baby girl, and we have Ariani and Alejandro, who just had their baby boy. So both dancer couples going through a major life event. But for the rest of you, for the three of you, how do you envision the rest of your career? Do you feel comfortable sharing some of that with us?
Ballet for me, for the most part, is my priority. It's taking care of my body, working out, making sure I'm healthy is my focus currently. So that sort of trumps everything else in my life. But I'm also very thankful that, I have the time, and I think it's important to have other things to do outside of your work and ballet too, so you don't get too consumed by it. But I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to pursue my associate's degree online through Rio Salado College. So that's the other thing that I'm working on. And so it's there's a lot of other things I think you can do kind of too on the side of ballet that give you a bit of a release. So I intend to continue doing that until I'm done dancing, and then hopefully get a head start on another career, more academic career post dance.
So yeah, like I as well. I'm very young, so I'm really focusing on ballet right now. Eventually I'd like to maybe go to school and maybe become a teacher, I don't know. But right now it's definitely ballet, making sure that my lifestyle outside of dance is supportive of what I'm trying to do in the studio. So whether that be cross training or just overall taking care of my well-being, self-care kind of thing, is really important.
To me, since I'm a little bit older, on the older side, I would say, of course, I go, in my head of what would be next for me. I believe, and my goal is to dance for the next 10 years. And within the next 10 years, also find a degree on something that I like it, so I can have more of an academic work once I'm done retiring. But also I do have passion for teaching, and I do have, few teachings that I do throughout the week, and I enjoy that very much. So I guess I'm still trying to figure out what it would be. Would I be a full-time teacher, or would I, be a full-time student maybe, I don't know. So still figuring it out.
Thank you all for sharing that with us. Alejandro says, "Hola, Ricardo." Alejandro Mendez. We're glad you're watching. Alejandro is one of our dancers as well. Barbara says, "I grew up and lived in New York and New Jersey, so I was able to view many performances of Ebe Anderson." Barbara, that is awesome. Ebe had such a wonderful career, and we are very lucky to have him at our artistic helm. He has, brought the company to amazing heights, and we are always excited to see what he's coming up with next. And she says, "To continue, I was so excited when moving to Arizona to find that he was director of Ballet Arizona." Yep, it's an amazing thing for us. So I'll just, give one last little reminder. We are nearing the end of our time. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to post to us, go ahead and put those into the live chat. I'll just go ahead and ask a couple questions in the meantime, just to give you a little bit of time to get that started. For the three of you, what do you do outside of your normal day? So Tiffany mentioned she does want to make sure that she includes things that are supportive of her art making and training in the studio. But how do you take care of yourselves, both physically, mentally, spiritually, all of those things? How do you make sure that you're able to do what you do?
Sorry, my roommate's cooking, so there might be some noise in the background, which is okay. But so yeah, I like going to the gym. I have been cross-training, lifting some weights, doing some running. But obviously I can only do so much during the week because we've got a full schedule of dancing. So you come home, you're kind of exhausted. But also like eating properly is super important, getting enough protein so that your muscles can recover, drinking enough water, blah, 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 blah. But I also like playing on my Switch. I have Minecraft and I play Animal Crossing. I like to crochet sometimes. I like singing. I do karaoke, so my neighbors probably hate me, but yeah, just having fun as well.
Yeah, I love to read and go for walks. I recently moved to a house in a nice neighborhood, so I'm able to go to the park more with friends, especially during the pandemic. That's wonderful. I love to cook. During the first half of the season, I was actually recovering from a minor concussion, so I really value rest now and taking it easy, especially on the weekends, has helped me a lot. Coming back from that and just really laying low. So that's been most of my focus. Also doing a lot of crocheting and just small little crafts to help fill your time during quarantine, I think, and on your days off.
I love resting. I love just staying in, sleeping in, but I also love, having drinks with my friends. One thing that we really appreciated was game nights with things that, we never really had a habit of it. And it became a habit that I love it. So, having game nights on a weekend, we play Monopoly, we play a lot of games. We also have, karaoke weekends where we just sing all night long, which is super fun too. And, dinners. So for me, it's really important for me to have a normal life outside of work, because otherwise I get a little crazy and I can't really focus because I don't feel I'm having a life outside of my work. And so for my mental health, it's very important for me to have things to do over the weekend. So I'm not focused on ballet at all. Ballet for me, I left on Friday and I'll pick it up on Monday or maybe Tuesday, So, but yeah.
Thank you all for sharing that with us. We have a couple more questions. I did want to just answer this one from Sunflower City because it sort of dovetails off of what we were just talking about. Sunflower City is asking, what were your favorite pre-COVID hangouts? If being able to go to those places was affected by the pandemic, how have you kept the spirit of them alive? So did you have anything that you made a part of your life before the pandemic, and how do you keep that with you now?
One of my favorite things to do, and what was really important for me working on school, was to have a separate place to go to work on school. So it was outside of my home. So I frequented lots of coffee shops around the valley. And with that not being an option anymore, I ended up separating my home sort of into my living area and then my work area, because I didn't really go out that much anymore. So I had to set up kind of like a school room, and that was completely reserved for school. So that's kind of how I adjusted to that. And I ended up cooking a lot more because I wasn't able to go out to restaurants, and eating with friends over Zoom, again, because I wasn't able to go out to restaurants or anything, which is something my family really loved to do. So that was sort of how I adjusted. I would say coffee shops and restaurants were the two things I missed the most.
For me, as I said, it was the game nights, and my friends and I were fortunate enough to be able to hang out during the pandemic. It was just the three of us, and it was really, really nice, like to get to have those game nights, and I was always looking forward to it. And hola, Alejandro.
So, I mean, I guess I don't really go many places other than the studio, the grocery store, kind of stuff like that, just because I'm not really super into, like, I don't know, clubbing and seeing people like that. So I do miss, though, like, just leisurely shopping, like just going into the mall and walking around seeing what they have, kind of thing. And like now that's not really so much of an option because there's the threat of like spreading a virus. So that's different.
Thank you all. A couple more questions before we end here. Leslie is asking, what are your pre-performance rituals?
So I love getting coffee because obviously you need the like pre-show boost, but like I'll also sometimes get like a little like pastry with it or something just to like pump me up and like give me a bit of a pep in my step.
Depending on the show, I think it changes for me. One thing I've learned over the years is I think it's really important to have the ability to have a good show, even if you can't, perform any of your pre-show rituals, even if you just have to run on stage with no preparation. You still need to be able to deliver a good show. So I've become less dependent on little things and little superstitions before shows. But one thing that I always like to do before going on, I don't do it so much recently because I've only performed on the Symphony Hall stage and the Orpheum, which I've performed on many, many times over the past 7 years that I've lived in Phoenix. But every time I see and I'm on a new stage, I always just like to take a moment. I love being on stage by myself when it's quiet and it's just beautiful. And I feel like you can really feel all of the artists and the performances that have happened on that stage, just sort of like the ghosts of the theater. And it's nice for me to think about all of the things that have happened on that stage, all of the people who have gotten to witness art in those seats, all the people who have gotten to dance on that stage, and how fortunate I am to dance, where many other amazing people have danced. And I think every theater has its story. So I always like to just take a moment to appreciate that whenever I have the opportunity to perform somewhere new, that I've never performed. And I've had the, wonderful opportunities to perform in many places at the Kennedy Center, at Symphony Hall, on many amazing stages, and it's not something that I ever want to take for granted. So that's probably my most personal pre-show ritual that I've kind of kept going.
My ritual usually, I like to be rested. If we have a 2 show, for example, before the second show, I like to take a little nap so I can just wake up refreshed. If it's a show day, and depends on what I'm doing. Usually when I'm putting my makeup is when I'm going through my choreography on my head. or things that I might do a little bit different that day. So I think makeup for me, the makeup time is the time when I probably do most of my ritual a little bit mentally. And also I really enjoy, depending on the role that I'm doing, is to be 30 minutes before the show, be backstage, just doing my own warm up, thinking of things. I like to feel very warm before performing. So depending on the role, I like to have 30 minutes before just for myself over there on the side of the stage, and just, warm myself up and going through things in my head. That's pretty much of my ritual.
Thank you all for sharing a little bit of that with us. Our last question is from Yoshiko S. The question is, how about Ebe as a boss? Because I only know when he was a dancer at New York City Ballet. So the big question, how do you feel about your artistic director, Ebe Anderson? What is it like to work for Ebe?
I think it's really amazing working with him. He's really cool. He's pretty, I don't know. He's a character for sure, but I feel like he's also very down to earth most of the time. And he is very intuitive in the way of he knows exactly each dancer's personality and how to bring things out of them and what they need to improve on. And it's just insane sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tiffany. He's very intuitive, and you get that sense. He's very personal, I think, with all of his dancers. Whenever you're working with him in the studio, you can see it, especially, I think, in his choreographic process, that he is not necessarily the type of choreographer who likes to think about what he wants to see on stage and then come into the studio. He very much likes to see the dancers in the studio, see how their bodies move, how they're working, and choreograph based on them. So I think that's really interesting to see. He's very funny in rehearsals. Some days we'll get a lot done, some days not so much, but it's always, it's always a fun time, and there's always great memories, I think. And you can really tell that he's a very knowledgeable person, like Tiffany said, especially about his dancers and what each of them needs and how each of them dances and how they'll work and how they'll work together, which is very important, I think, especially for this company, because it's so diverse. We have lots of different heights, lots of different styles of dancers. And so it's very admirable that he's able to make cohesive pieces, incorporating all of these different characters, I think.
I love working with Abe. I think he's so funny. I feel like my favorite moments on rehearsal with him, we just laugh a lot. And so that makes the process really fun, and we joke around a lot. So I love that about him. And also, as they both said, he's very intuitive and he really knows his dancers very well. And so that is something that is really nice to have someone. He's very understandable, and I like how sensitive he is. Even though people may not see him that way, he's a very sensitive person, and so am I. And so I feel like I connect with him in a great level of understanding. He understands me, he gets me, and it's very rewarding to work with someone that understands you and accepts you for who you are. And so I feel very fortunate to be working with him, and I love him. I think he's really funny. We have always a good time in rehearsals.
Thank you all for sharing that with us. Eve is a wonderful person to work with our dancers, and no one will know him as well as our dancers do, because there's something about an artistic director and the relationship between them and their dancers that no one can know unless you dance there. So it's amazing. He really takes care and pride in sharing his experience and his knowledge and learning from his dancers and growing with them and always bringing the best out of everyone. I think that's it. I'm taking a look at the chat one more time. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We had such a lovely time chatting with you all, answering your questions, getting to know Katherine, Tiffany, and Ricardo a little bit more. If you enjoyed this program tonight, if you enjoyed Ballet Under the Virtual Stars and this discussion panel, please consider donating to Ballet Arizona's Be Our Bridge Fund. That is helping us get to next season. That is helping us fill in all the gaps, that the pandemic sort of created in our season. And we are just so thankful for everything you've already done, just even being here with us tonight and participating in this program. So please head over to Ballet Arizona, balletaz.org, our website. You can find information about donating there and other ways to support as well. But from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be signing off, but we'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Okay.